Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. The world had changed beyond recognition in the years since the virus was unleashed. What began as a covert biological weapon experiment gone awry had reshaped human society in ways no one could have predicted. The airborne pathogen swept across the globe, fundamentally altering male biology and triggering a gradual transformation into female physiology. At first, there was panic and chaos as governments struggled to contain the spread and understand its effects, but it soon became clear there was no stopping the metamorphosis. Within a year, nearly half the world's male population had fully transitioned. Another year later, and the transformation was complete. There were no genetic males left on Earth. The social and cultural upheaval was immense. Traditional gender roles and power structures crumbled overnight. Industries and institutions had to rapidly adapt to an all-female workforce. Reproduction became a pressing concern, with artificial insemination and genetic engineering rising to the forefront of medical research. But something unexpected emerged from the ashes of the old world order. As women took the reins of government, business, and science, long-standing conflicts began to fade. International cooperation flourished. Resources once poured into military budgets were redirected to education, healthcare, and technological innovation. The pace of scientific advancement accelerated exponentially. Within a decade, the first permanent lunar colony was established. 5 years later, humans set foot on Mars. The dreams of science fiction were becoming reality at a dizzying rate. Dr. Ava Chen gazed out the window of the space elevator as it ascended towards Tranquility Station in high Earth orbit. Even after dozens of trips, the sight of the curvature of the Earth below never failed to take her breath away. The swirling white clouds, vast blue oceans, and patchwork of green and brown land masses seemed both familiar and alien from this vantage point. She smoothed down her charcoal gray flight suit, fingers brushing over the patch on her shoulder, the insignia of the United Earth Space Force. Sometimes she still had trouble believing she wore it. Growing up, she never imagined she'd one day be an officer aboard humanity's most advanced warship. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. The release of the virus had set in motion a chain of events that propelled humanity to the stars far faster than anyone anticipated. And with that new frontier came new dangers and rivalries. The elevator docked with a gentle thud. Ava gathered her duffel bag and made her way through the bustling corridors of the station. Crew members and civilians alike hurried past, their footsteps muffled by the station's artificial gravity. She nodded to a few familiar faces as she walked. At last, she reached the docking bay where her ship awaited. The UAS Artemis loomed before her, its sleek hull gleaming under the harsh lights. At nearly a kilometer long, it dwarfed the surrounding support craft and shuttles. Ava felt a swell of pride at the sight. This was more than just a warship. It was the pinnacle of human engineering and a symbol of how far they'd come. "Dr. Chen, just in time!" Ava turned to see Commander Olivia Reeves striding towards her, datapad in hand. The ship's XO wore her blonde hair in a tight bun, her expression all business. "Cutting it a little close, aren't you?" Olivia said, though there was a hint of a smile playing at her lips. "We're scheduled to depart in less than an hour." "You know me, Commander," Ava replied with a grin. "I like to make an entrance." Olivia shook her head, but her eyes twinkled with amusement. "Well, you're here now. Better get settled in. Captain wants all senior staff on the bridge for departure." Ava nodded and made her way up the boarding ramp. As she stepped inside the airlock, she felt the familiar tingle of excitement and apprehension that always preceded a new mission. This deployment would take them to the edge of explored space, patrolling the borders of human-controlled territory. Tensions were high with the Martian colonies, who were pushing for independence from Earth governance. There were rumors of secret weapon development, fears of impending conflict. The Artemis and her crew were tasked with maintaining peace through a show of strength, while gathering intelligence on Martian capabilities and intentions. Ava stowed her gear in her quarters and changed into her duty uniform, a sleek, dark blue jumpsuit with silver piping. She took a moment to study her reflection in the mirror. Her almond-shaped eyes stared back at her, framed by short black hair streaked with premature gray. The years of intensive study and high-stress missions had taken their toll, but she wouldn't trade this life for anything. The ship-wide comm system crackled to life. "All hands, prepare for departure. Senior officers report to the bridge." Ava took a deep breath and headed out. The corridors were a flurry of activity as the crew made final preparations. She entered a lift and commanded, "Bridge." The doors opened moments later onto the nerve center of the massive vessel. Banks of glowing monitors and holographic displays filled the circular room. At the center stood Captain Elena Valdez, her salt and pepper hair pulled back in a severe ponytail as she studied a tactical readout. "Dr. Chen, welcome aboard," the captain said without looking up. "I trust your leave was productive." "Yes, ma'am," Ava replied, taking her station at the science console. "I've brought the latest data from Lunar Base regarding Martian comm intercepts. I'll have a full report for you within the hour." Elena nodded approvingly. "Excellent. We'll need every scrap of intel we can get our hands on for this mission." The rest of the senior staff filtered in. Olivia at Tactical, Chief Engineer Zoe Okoro at Operations, and Navigation Officer Meg Tanaka at the helm. "Status report," Elena barked. "All systems are green, Captain," Zoe reported. "Antimatter reactor is stable and drive core is prepped for FTL." "Navigation plots are laid in," Meg added. "We're clear for departure." Elena settled into the command chair. "Very well. Lieutenant Tanaka, take us out. Nice and easy." Ava felt a subtle vibration through the deck plates as the massive engines came to life. On the main view screen, she watched as Tranquility Station fell away behind them. Earth loomed large, a blue jewel suspended in the void. "We are clear of the station, Captain," Meg announced. "Ready to engage FTL drive on your mark." "Do it," Elena ordered. There was a momentary sensation of pressure, and then the stars on the view screen elongated into streaks of light. They were on their way. As the initial excitement of departure faded, the reality of their mission settled in. Ava immersed herself in analyzing the intelligence reports, searching for any clues about Martian intentions. Hours slipped by unnoticed as she pored over comm logs, sensor data, and satellite imagery. A hand on her shoulder startled her from her focus. She looked up to see Olivia standing there, concern evident in her eyes. "You missed dinner?" the XO said. "Again, you need to take better care of yourself, Ava. We've got a long deployment ahead of us." Ava rubbed her eyes, suddenly aware of how tired she felt. "You're right. I lost track of time. I'll grab something from the mess hall." Olivia's expression softened. "Walk with me? I could use a coffee myself." They made their way through the ship's corridors in companionable silence. The night shift was just coming on duty, and they passed crew members heading to their posts. In the mess hall, they found a quiet corner table after grabbing food and drinks. "So," Olivia said between sips of coffee, "what's got you so engrossed? Find anything interesting in those reports?" Ava toyed with her sandwich, her appetite suddenly diminished. "Nothing concrete, but there are patterns emerging, increased activity around Phobos, gaps in our sensor coverage of certain regions. It's like they're deliberately hiding something from us." Olivia leaned in, lowering her voice. "You think the rumors about a superweapon are true?" "I don't know," Ava admitted. "But whatever they're up to, it's big, and they're going to great lengths to keep it secret." Their conversation was interrupted by a ship-wide alert. Captain Valdez's voice rang out over the comm system. "All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, all hands to battle stations." Ava and Olivia exchanged alarmed glances before sprinting for the bridge. They arrived to find organized chaos as the crew rushed to their posts. "Report!" Elena barked as they entered. "Long-range sensors detected a massive energy spike in the Martian sphere," Zoe explained, her fingers flying over her console. It matches no known signature in our database. Ava's blood ran cold. The weapon, she whispered. Elena's head snapped towards her. Explain, Doctor. Quickly, Ava outlined her suspicions based on the intelligence reports. Elena's expression grew grimmer with each word.
If you're right, we could be looking at the opening salvo of a war,
the captain said.
We need to warn Earth. But before she could give the order, alarms blared across the bridge.
On the main view screen, a blinding flash erupted from the surface of Mars. A wave of energy, unlike anything they'd ever seen before, radiated outward at impossible speed. Brace for impact, Elena shouted. The energy wave slammed into the Artemis with devastating force. Sparks flew from consoles as systems overloaded. Ava was thrown from her seat, her head striking the deck with a sickening crack. As consciousness faded, her last thought was of the billions of lives on Earth, unknowingly in the path of this unstoppable force. When Ava came to, the bridge was bathed in the eerie glow of emergency lighting. Smoke hung heavy in the air, acrid and choking. She pushed herself up with a groan, her head throbbing. Status report! Elena's voice cut through the haze. The captain was on her feet, a gash on her forehead oozing blood. Someone tell me what the hell just happened! Zoe's fingers danced across her partially functioning console. Multiple systems are down, Captain. We've lost main power, weapons, and long-range communications. Life support is on emergency backup. The wave appears to have been some kind of massive EMP, Ava added, stumbling to her station. But on a scale I've never seen before, it shouldn't be possible. Elena's expression hardened. Clearly, it is possible. We need to get communications back online and warn Earth. They'll be defenseless against this weapon. A chilling thought struck Ava.
Captain, given the speed of that energy wave, I'm afraid it's already too late. Earth would have been hit only minutes after us.
A heavy silence fell over the bridge as the implications sank in.
Billions of lives, entire civilizations, could have been wiped out in an instant, and they were powerless to do anything about it.
We can't assume the worst, Elena said, at last, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes.
Our priority now is to get this ship operational and find out exactly what happened. Zoe, I want damage control teams working around the clock. Meg, see if you can get us any maneuvering capability. Ava, work with Olivia to restore short-range sensors and communications. We're flying blind out here.
The next several hours were a blur of frantic activity. Ava threw herself into the work, pushing aside her fears for Earth and her family. There would be time for grief later, if their worst fears were confirmed. For now, they had a job to do. Slowly, systems began to come back online. Short-range sensors flickered to life, giving them a limited view of their immediate surroundings. What they saw was not encouraging. Captain? Olivia reported, her voice tight.
I'm picking up multiple contacts on an intercept course. Martian ships heavily armed.
Elena's jaw clenched. How many?
At least a dozen that I can see. Probably more outside our sensor range.
Weapons status? Zoe shook her head. Still offline, ma'am. We're sitting ducks. The captain took a deep breath, weighing their options. All right, people. We're not going down without a fight. Zoe, divert all available power to shields and engines. Meg, plot us a course away from those ships. Best speed you can manage. Ava, keep working on communications. If we can't warn Earth, maybe we can reach some of our other colonies. As the crew scrambled to carry out her orders, a priority alert flashed on Ava's console. Her heart leapt into her throat as she saw the source.
Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from Luna Base.
Elena was at her side in an instant. Put it through. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the haggard face of Admiral Chen, Ava's mother, and the commander of Earth's off-world military forces. Relief flooded through Ava at the sight. At least some of humanity had survived. Artemis, this is Luna Base, the Admiral's voice crackled with static.
If you're receiving this, respond immediately. Earth has gone dark. Repeat, we've lost all contact with Earth.
Elena leaned towards the comm pickup.
This is Captain Valdez of the Artemis. We're here, Admiral. What's your status? We're intact, but barely. That energy wave knocked out most of our systems. We're working to restore full functionality."
The Admiral's eyes locked onto Ava.
"I'm glad to see you're all right, Doctor."
Ava managed a weak smile. "You too, Admiral." Elena cut in.
"Ma'am, we have multiple hostile contacts closing in on our position. Martian warships. We believe they may be responsible for the attack." The Admiral's expression darkened. "Understood. We've detected similar fleet movements in our sector. It appears this was a coordinated assault."
She paused, clearly wrestling with a difficult decision.
"Captain Valdez, I'm invoking Emergency Protocol Omega. You are to disengage from the enemy and proceed immediately to rendezvous coordinates in the Kuiper belt. We're enacting the Continuity of Civilization plan."
Ava's breath caught in her throat. The Continuity Plan was a last resort measure designed to preserve a fragment of humanity in the event of a catastrophic attack on Earth. It involved secretly constructed deep space habitats and stockpiles of supplies, enough to sustain a small population for generations if necessary. "With all due respect, Admiral," Elena protested, "we can't just abandon Earth."
"There could be survivors. That's an order, Captain." The Admiral cut her off sharply. "Earth is lost. Our priority now is ensuring the survival of our species. Luna Base will hold off the Martian forces as long as we can to cover your escape."
Her gaze softened slightly.
"The fate of humanity rests in your hands now. Don't let us down."
The transmission cut out abruptly. For a moment, stunned silence reigned on the bridge. Then Elena straightened, her voice ringing out with grim determination. "You heard the Admiral. Meg, set course for the Kuiper belt. Maximum FTL as soon as our drive is operational. Zoe, I want every scrap of power diverted to engines and shields. Ava, scan for any other survivors and get me a full damage report. Olivia, coordinate with security to repel boarders if it comes to that." She paused, meeting each of their eyes in turn.
"I know this isn't what any of us signed up for, but right now we're all that's left of Earth. We carry the hopes and dreams of our entire civilization. We will not let them down."
"Understood?" A chorus of affirmatives echoed across the bridge. As the crew threw themselves into their tasks with renewed vigor, Ava felt a mix of emotions churning within her. Grief for the billions lost, fear of the uncertain future ahead, but also a spark of hope. Humanity had faced extinction before, in the dark days after the virus's release. They had not only survived, but thrived, reaching for the stars. They would endure this too, no matter the cost. The Artemis limped away from Mars, straining against the limits of its damaged systems. On the sensors, Ava watched as the Martian fleet split, some ships peeling off in pursuit, while others moved to engage the valiant defenders at Luna Base. She said a silent prayer for her mother and the others who were sacrificing themselves to buy them time. As the red planet receded behind them, Ava's thoughts turned to the long journey ahead. The Kuiper belt was at the very edge of the solar system, a vast region of icy bodies and ancient comets. It would take them weeks to reach the rendezvous point, even at maximum FTL. And who knew what they would find when they arrived? But those were questions for another day. Right now, they had a ship to repair, pursuing enemies to evade, and the weight of an entire civilization on their shoulders. Ava took a deep breath and focused on the task at hand. The future of humanity depended on it. Days blurred into weeks as the Artemis pushed onwards towards the outer reaches of the solar system. The crew worked tirelessly, repairing systems and fending off sporadic attacks from Martian pursuit vessels. Ava found herself pulling double shifts, dividing her time between the science lab and engineering as they struggled to keep the ship functional. In rare moments of downtime, the reality of their situation would hit her anew. Earth, the cradle of humanity, was gone. Billions of lives snuffed out in an instant. The grief was overwhelming, threatening to paralyze her. But she pushed through, drawing strength from the determination she saw in her crewmates' eyes. They were all that was left now, and they had a duty to those they'd lost. As they approached the Kuiper belt, Captain Valdez called a meeting of the senior staff in the ship's conference room. Ava settled into her seat, noting the exhaustion evident on everyone's faces. "We're nearing the rendezvous coordinates," Elena began without preamble. "But we still don't know exactly what we're going to find there. Dr. Chen, what can you tell us about this continuity of civilization plan?" Ava leaned forward, calling up data on the room's holographic display. "It was a highly classified project initiated after the first Martian colonies declared independence. The idea was to create a failsafe, a way to preserve human knowledge and genetic diversity in the event of a catastrophic war. The display showed schematics for massive, self-contained habitats. These stations were designed to support populations of up to 10,000 people indefinitely. They're equipped with hydroponics bays, fusion reactors, and advanced recycling systems. In theory, they could sustain a community for generations." "That's all well and good," Olivia interjected. "But how do we know they're still out there? For all we know, the Martians could have already found and destroyed them." Ava shook her head. "Unlikely. The stations were built in secret, using stealth technology reverse-engineered from captured Martian scouts. They're virtually undetectable unless you know exactly where to look. And their locations were compartmentalized. Not even my mother knew the coordinates for all of them." "So how do we find them?" Zoe asked. "We have the rendezvous coordinates," Ava explained. "Once we're in range, we'll transmit a coded signal. If anyone's there to receive it, they'll guide us in." Elena nodded thoughtfully. "And if no one responds?" A heavy silence fell over the room. It was Meg who finally voiced what they were all thinking. "Then we're on our own out here." The captain's expression hardened.
"Let's cross that bridge if we come to it. For now, we proceed as planned. Meg, take us to the rendezvous point. Zoe, I want continuous scans for any sign of Martian activity. Olivia, keep our weapons hot, just in case." "Dismissed." As the others filed out, Elena held Ava back with a gentle hand on her arm. "A moment, Doctor." Once they were alone, the captain's stern demeanor softened slightly. "How are you holding up, Ava? And don't give me the stock 'I'm fine' answer. I need to know where your head's at." Ava hesitated, weighing her words carefully. "Honestly, I'm terrified, Captain. We're carrying the future of our entire species on our shoulders. What if we fail? What if we're all that's left?" Elena's dark eyes held a mix of empathy and resolve. "I understand. Believe me, those same thoughts keep me up at night, but we can't afford to be paralyzed by fear. Our duty now is to the living, to preserve what's left and give humanity a chance to rebuild." She squeezed Ava's shoulder reassuringly. "I've seen your file, Doctor. You're one of the brightest minds of your generation. If anyone can help us navigate this crisis, it's you. I need you focused and at your best. Can I count on you?" Ava straightened, drawing strength from the captain's confidence. "Yes, ma'am, I won't let you down." "Good." Elena managed a small smile. "Get some rest while you can. I have a feeling things are about to get very interesting." As if on cue, the ship's alert klaxon began to blare. They rushed to the bridge, where Olivia was hunched over the tactical console. "Report!" Elena barked. "Multiple contacts, closing fast," Olivia replied, her voice tense. "Martian signatures. They must have followed us." "How many?" "At least 5 capital ships, plus support craft. They've got us outgunned and outmaneuvered, Captain." Elena's jaw clenched as she studied the tactical display. "Options?" Zoe spoke up from her station. "Our FTL drive is on its last legs, ma'am. We could try to make a run for it, but I can't guarantee we'd survive another jump." "We're too close to the rendezvous point," Ava added. "If we flee now, we might never find the continuity stations." The captain nodded grimly. "Then we stand and fight. Battle stations, everyone. Meg, plot us a course through the densest part of the Kuiper belt. With any luck, we can use the debris for cover. Zoe, divert all non-essential power to weapons and shields. Olivia, target their lead ship. Let's show these bastards what Earth's finest are made of." As the crew sprang into action, Ava felt a surge of pride mixed with fear. They were hopelessly outnumbered and deep in unknown territory. But they were humanity's last hope. They had to find a way to survive. The Artemis plunged into the swirling chaos of the Kuiper belt.
massive chunks of ice and rock tumbling past on the view screen. Behind them, the Martian fleet gave chase, energy weapons lashing out and vaporizing debris in their path. "Evasive maneuvers," Elena ordered as a barrage of missiles streaked towards them. Meg's hands flew across her console, sending the ship into a series of wild rolls and turns. Most of the incoming fire went wide, detonating harmlessly against floating boulders, but one missile slipped through their defenses, slamming into the Artemis's port side. The ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring as systems went offline. "Direct hit," Zoe called out. "We've lost power to decks 5 through 8. Rerouting emergency power now." "Return fire," Elena commanded. The Artemis's remaining weapons came to life, spitting streams of superheated plasma at the pursuing vessels. One Martian frigate took a direct hit to its engine core, erupting in a spectacular explosion that scattered debris across their sensor screens. But it wasn't enough. The other ships pressed their attack, slowly wearing down the Artemis's shields. Ava worked furiously at her console, trying to find some weakness they could exploit. Suddenly, an alert flashed on her screen. "Captain?" she shouted over the din of battle. "I'm picking up a signal. It's the recognition code for the continuity stations." Elena's eyes lit up. "Source?" Ava's fingers flew as she triangulated the transmission. "It's coming from inside that asteroid." She highlighted a massive oblong shape on the tactical display, nearly 100 kilometers long. "It must be hollowed out," Olivia mused. The perfect hiding spot. Another blast rocked the ship. "We're losing structural integrity," Zoe warned. "We can't take much more of this." Elena made a split-second decision. "Meg, take us in, full speed." "But Captain," Olivia protested, "we have no idea what's waiting for us in there. It could be a trap." "We're out of options," Elena replied grimly. "It's either take our chances with the station or to be blown to atoms out here." "Do it!" The Artemis streaked towards the asteroid, weapons blazing to clear a path through the debris field. The Martian ships followed close behind, their shots going wide as Meg's evasive maneuvers became increasingly erratic. As they drew closer, Ava detected a shimmer in the asteroid's surface, some kind of energy field. "Captain, I think it's—" Her words were cut off as they plunged through the barrier. For a heart-stopping moment, the ship's systems went dark. Then, with a surge of power, everything came back online. Ava gasped as the asteroid's interior came into view on the main screen. A vast, cavernous space stretched out before them, easily large enough to house a small city. And at its center floated an enormous structure, a wheel-shaped habitat rotating slowly in the void. "It's magnificent," Olivia breathed. But there was no time to admire the view. The pursuing Martian ships were only seconds behind them. "Why aren't they firing?" Zoe wondered aloud. As if in answer, space behind them lit up with a dazzling array of energy beams. They lanced out from hidden emplacements in the asteroid's walls, catching the Martian vessels completely by surprise. In a matter of moments, the entire enemy fleet had been reduced to drifting debris. A new voice crackled over the ship's speakers. "Artemis, this is Continuity Station Alpha. You are clear to approach Docking Bay 3. Welcome home." A collective sigh of relief swept through the bridge. They had made it. Against all odds, they had found a safe haven for what remained of humanity. As Meg guided them towards the indicated docking bay, Ava felt a complex mix of emotions washing over her. Grief for all they had lost, fear of the challenges that lay ahead, but also a spark of hope. They had survived, and as long as they survived, there was a chance to rebuild, to ensure that Earth's legacy lived on among the stars. The Artemis settled into its berth with a gentle thud. For a moment, no one moved, still processing the whirlwind of events that had brought them to this point. Then Captain Valdez stood, her voice ringing out with quiet authority. "We've been through hell to get here," she said, meeting each of their eyes in turn. "But our job is far from over. Out there are the last remnants of our civilization. They'll be looking to us for leadership, for hope. It won't be easy, but I know this crew is up to the challenge." She allowed herself a small smile. "Let's go see what's left of home." Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.